Hello and welcome to the Billion Dollar Broker Podcast. My name is Ross LeCane. I'm bringing my 25 years industry experience together with leading experts around the globe to give you the insights on how to live a better life and grow a profitable mortgage broking business that you are proud of. Welcome to another episode of the Billion Dollar Broker Podcast. I'm Ross LeCane. I've got a fascinating guest for you today. We're having a chat at the AFG PD day the other day, and I'm like, I've got to get this guy on the podcast. I love the chat we had there. So Joel Wyld is the director of Peasy, and one of the things that he was telling me is, one of his claims to fame is, in the year of 2020, he was the AFG New South Wales and National Broker of the Year. So a really esteemed award. You were saying you were really pumped to get this award because you'd worked for AFG, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. But then the year that you actually won it, there was no big award ceremony, and you were in a little room and you got the award. So well done, mate. You can't take away that trophy in the background. That's something that you'll have forever. So congratulations.
Thank you.
We're going to have a great conversation today, and the guys are going to get so much value from what you have to say. But I want to hear a bit of your backstory. For those newer brokers, tell us what your journey was to, starting your broking business.
Yeah, and just to go back, the trophy. This was the last one for this particular trophy. I was the last winner of this one, so they started giving out a new trophy. So I can keep this one. That was probably the one good thing about winning in that year. So yes, can keep that forever. I started as a broker in 2012. So I was working at AFG for a few years. Worked at a few different lenders as well before that. But yeah, longest sort of tenure was with AFG for a few years. Went out, joined a broker out at Parramatta. I don't know if you know any brokers at Parramatta, but I was working there for 12 months, went to Oxygen for a couple of years, for about 2.5 years, and then started Peasy in 2015.
So I'm interested in the name Peasy, right? Or tell me, what's the backstory for Peasy?
Short for property easy. So it's interesting, right? Because we think of ourselves as brokers, like we help people get the loan. And I've met with a creative agency, and they said, "What do you do?" And I said, "Oh, I guide them through and help them buy." And they ask about what happens when they exchange and da 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 da. And they said, "So you really actually helping people with property on their property journey?" I was like, "Yeah, I guess we are." And he goes, "You make property easy." I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Peasy." I was like, "No, that sounds awful. I don't." And then he went through a few other ideas, and I was like, "I can't get that out of my head." I hated it at first, but it's like Stanza sort of thing. Anyone that's a Seinfeld buff.
Love it. Love it. And, it's interesting you say that, because I remember, CBA a few years ago, this is probably going back 10 years ago now, showing my age, but they were saying they did a study, the 7 habits of highly effective brokers or something they were calling it back in the day. And they did a survey of, hundreds of customers, and, the top reason came out that, why consumers chose brokers was exactly, what your catch cry is, because brokers make the transaction easy, right? And so I think, I know when we've done, Kaizen and done process mapping within our business, you always have to bring it back to, is what we're doing making the transaction easier for the client? And I know that's something, obviously, given your name, that you're a big sort of proponent of.
It's 100% correct. And I think there's a great deal of trust that they place into us to handle the loan for them. There are like pages and pages of documents. There's so many conflicting bits of information floating around on websites, and competing lenders and brokers and all sorts of things. And now with AI and ChatGPT, you can ask it the same question 3 times. It gives you 3 different answers. And people are just so confused, and they're just like, some people come to us and they've done that much research that they're just all over the shop. And you're like, hey, okay, let's just go back to keep it simple, right? And and that's what we can do as brokers, because we've got the experience, and we can also share with them and say, this is what a lot of people are doing. Some people feel comfort in numbers, right? It's what a lot of people are. People fixing at the moment? Yes, most people are, or no, most people are doing this. And yeah, get them to really focus on what's most important. So
Good. And in terms of, thinking back to when you started your business, so you had a bit of sort of experience from the bank, from AFG Direct, from working from a couple of other brokerages. When you started your business, a lot of, newer brokers sort of struggle to get business. What were some of the things that you did in the early days of Peasy to really get your name out there and to start to develop your business?
man, everything. I guess when I first started, I teamed up with a broker, Jason Singh, and he was quite generous in the way that he gave me a few of his clients that were keen to go ahead already, and so it was more about processing and doing that loan as opposed to trying to make the sale. So it enabled me to get a bit of practice on submitting an application and knowing what that process was, from a practical sense, and then also introduced me to some real estate agents. So I did actually, before leaving AFG, I did actually meet with Jason, and he mentioned that he had some relationships with agents that he would introduce me to. And I was going to open homes. I was spending a day in their office, meeting all their sales staff. I used to go to present to their sales staff once a week. They would give me their open home list, and I would just call everybody that was on the list. And it was funny because as I started to get some staff on board, they made fun of me that they could all remember my mobile number off by heart, because every time I would leave a message, I'd be like, "It's Joel Wyld here from Financial Elements or from Oxygen, just calling about your home loan, da 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 da," and they all remember my name off, my number off by heart. So yeah, just lots and lots of calls, lots of follow-ups. It's pretty much, when you start out, that's all you've got time to do, because you're not sort of processing a whole bunch of applications.
Love it. And you mentioned you're in real estate offices weekly, right? So what were some of the things when you would go, and weekly is quite often, what are some of the topics? What are some of the things that you would chat to agents about?
Like some simple ones are regulation changes. I mean, one thing is, over the last sort of 11, 12 years, change has been the only constant, right? It's there's the APRA changes, then there's the way they calculate existing debt, the way that the first home buyer benefits, you name it. Everything has been changed one way or another. Some changes have been unchanged and then changed again. So there's always something to talk about, always. And you got to understand who your audience is. So whilst we are working on the other side of the fence to real estate agents, you still do have to play the game somewhat. You still do have to show them the benefit that they get. And it's not paying them, 0.2% commission. It's helping them make the sale ultimately. So if they've got a buyer really keen, wants to pay $1 million, and the seller just won't let it go for 1.1, the buyer wants to pay 1.1, and obviously doing all your due diligence, make sure they can afford it, meeting obligations, all of that stuff, really important. So, but as long as all of that is met, talking to you as a broker, you can get them the extra 100,000 because a better way of calculating commission, or some way of getting a bigger discount which lowers the assessment rate, whatever it is. And so showing them that it's not a few $100 from a home loan referral, it's the 30 grand you're going to get from the sale of this property. That is what I'm going to help you with.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. And I was just having this chat with a broker yesterday, and so many times brokers don't focus on that, right? They focus on everything that they can do, their product and services, and everything about them and why they're special, without focusing on, well, what is the real need of that agent, right? That agent either one, as you mentioned, wants to sell a property for the maximum price for the vendor, or two, wants a listing for the property, right? If we can help them with the things that they, really care about, then we're in a much better position to get a good referral relationship happening, rather than, sort of going in and saying, hey, I want to create a reciprocal arrangement for referrals with you, Mr. Real Estate Agent. And how many times have they heard that, right? It's, yeah.
Well, there's 17,000 brokers. Chances are, and I haven't done the numbers of how many real estate agents are, but there's chances are that they've had, 3 or 4 brokers knock on their door that month or that week. And how are you going to stand out? You really and the other thing is agents are different from each other too. Some of them, believe it or not, do want the buyers to be looked after. When I say some, I mean very few, but there are some, and you'd really have to ask them what is the most important thing to them.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. All right. So we've talked about making things easy, and one of the chats we were having the other day, and things that you're doing in your business, which I found fascinating, was embracing sort of technology and the use of AI. So do you want to talk to the audience about what you're doing in regards to your business and how you're making life easier for clients and obviously your team by implementing some of these things?
Yeah, good question. So we do have a project going at the moment. Got 3 full-time people working on it, so it's pretty serious stuff at the moment. And we're sort of really just trying to unpack the human brain, or the broker brain, in that whole process of qualifying a customer. So I think one of the things is putting something into a servicing calculator is part of the challenge. The real challenge is knowing, how do I find that, or how do I even know that's a thing? So for example, a calculator says depreciation, and you go, cool, where's that? What is that? Where do I find it? So, then it takes training. All right, you look on the tax return and you go to the schedule and whatever. And then there's different types of depreciation, for example. But the amount of training and knowledge that you need to be able to read through the entire tax return and make sure you're getting the right information, then make sure that the lender's policy allows that type of income so that you're not getting the wrong output. It's incredible. And what happens is, for the bigger businesses, for example, they train these brokers, and then the brokers say, cool, I got all the knowledge now. I'm going to go and do it on my own, which is what I did. So certainly wouldn't discourage people from doing that. But at the same time, as a business owner, you're investing a lot of time, a lot of training, a lot of effort into somebody that you hope sticks around. And so what we're trying to do is to just remove that part. So instead of saying, hey, put the depreciation in here, it's literally, you get the document, which they go through a fact find process where the document gets requested based on their own personal circumstances. They upload the document, scrapes all the information, puts it directly into the calculator based on the lender's policy. So where you can imagine that's a massive job. So we're starting with tax returns, and basically what it is, you upload a tax return, any version of the tax return, scrapes the data, and puts it all into like a verification validation step. Certain triggers, hey, you've got interest, do you have a debt? Or, hey, we notice you're paying rent and your home address is the same as your business address. Is this can we add that back as income, for example? So it's going to have, it's got all of those smarts in there as well. So yeah, really excited to get that going. So I think we'll have the tax returns part done by the end of this year, which is which we're really looking forward to.
Awesome, awesome. And then I think you said pay slips were potentially going to be next, and
Yeah.
To automate, what is a challenging part of the process, right? And again, I talk to brokers who have in-house credit analysts, but obviously the cost and the availability of those staff members over the last few years has been more and more difficult to find a good one. And, from a VA perspective, to train them to be able to think in that way is difficult
It,
as well, right? Yeah.
even the best of them forget certain things. Oh, I didn't check that. Oh, no, yeah, that's right. They had a Div 7A loan.
Yeah.
There's things that if you were to create the perfect tax return or payslip revision process, that you would get absolutely everything right. But even humans, even the most experienced of us can't. But I think as well, like, it's what's most fascinating is going through this process is how the human brain can just instantly go, bang, they process the information. Oh, that must be because of that. But you've gone through like 10 or 20 sort of decision making processes in your brain in a split second to arrive at that figure or that assumption, or so it's trying to really slow that down has been the real challenging bit. But it's like, yeah, why did you look at that and how did you get that? And it's fun as well, though.
Oh, definitely. Well, you must think it's fun if you're investing, your time and 3 staff into it. And, because it's a big investment. But I think, what the efficiencies that it will create on the other end, and the ability for you to be able to, do volume over time is going to make a massive difference for sure.
Hmm.
Mm. So, that's one way that we can, AI and use of technology is one way that we can make it easy. Another way that we can make it easy is to, take the path of least resistance for ourselves. And prior to the call, we were having a bit of a chat, and you were saying, one of the key things is, looking at, am I playing to my strengths within the business, and assessing, who you've got on your team, which is really important and quite insightful. So do you want to talk to us on that and sort of expand a little bit more on the conversation we started a bit earlier?
Yeah, well, it's when you say team, it can be, you can liken it to any team. You can use all sorts of analogies, but I'm a rugby league tragic Parramatta Eels supporter, unfortunately. But if you look at the rugby league team, you've got the halfback, generally organisers. Usually they're a bit smaller, a bit more nimble, a bit more energy. And then you've got sort of the big props, right? You've got this complete contrast between the two roles. And to be a great broker, you have to sort of be all of that in one when you first start out. If you're starting your own business, you've got to be the halfback and the prop and the bench and everyone. You're making the relationships, keeping the relationships, doing the numbers and calculations, and you spread yourself really thin. And I think the perfect broker, their personality could actually be any one of those roles that they're good at. So if you're really, really good at numbers, then you get a salesperson, you get somebody, finding and nurturing leads, for example. I'm great at doing policies. I'm great at getting loans done that nobody else can do. I'm just not good at talking to customers. Great. Hire someone to talk to those customers. I remember working at AFG, we had some awesome, really, really smart brokers. But they're just in that person to person kind of thing, were, maybe a bit introverted, for example. So then you need someone to sell for you. That doesn't mean you can't be a good broker. In fact, I think you could be some of the best brokers in the country you don't see them in the awards, and you don't see them out there. They're sort of very much in the office working away. So the sooner that you can hire people that have the strengths to offset your weaknesses, the happier that you'll be, because you'll be doing what you love every day. But the sooner you can become much more productive as well.
Oh, definitely. And I love the point that you were saying about, there's no sort of, one shape or size for a successful broker. And I think, depending your stage of growth as well, for the business. And quite often I say, there's a couple of different phases. You've got your accumulation phase when you're new in the business and you're really growing your loan book and you really need people that can go and catch and kill, right? And then you've got your consolidation where you've got a decent loan book and you're more marketing to that existing book. And you know that 80 to 90% of your business is going to come from repeat and referral business. So at each level of business that you go to, we need a different style of person to be able to write that business. We don't necessarily need a hunter when we're in the consolidation phase of our business. We just need someone who's, more like, you talked a rugby analogy. It's like your second row forward who can just smash the ball up the center all day, right? Just he doesn't have to be flashy. He doesn't have to have all the skills, but he just has to be a hard worker and
That's
drop
it.
up the middle all day, right? And
That's
so
it.
I think you're right. And again, depending on that, you hire based on those strengths and weaknesses that you're requiring within the business.
And you'll know, like one exercise that we did for my wife, we worked together, we run the business together. One of the exercises that we worked on was working out all of the things that she does day to day, because we were sort of wanting to split her role. And it was like, what does she look at? Almost like a Venn diagram. What is she good at? What does she enjoy doing? And then, financially, what would sort of be the right tasks for her to keep? Because obviously there's different levels of things require different levels of pay as well. You can only do what you can afford. And then we said, all right, these are the things that she's, and then, you obviously start to create a full-time role. So you go, okay, what are the things I don't like that I'm not good at? Obviously you get rid of those first and then start working your way off like, what am I good at that I don't like? And then, and then if you've created a full-time role on that, then amazing. But you can go either way. Yeah. It does really depends on the stage of your business, and where you're at.
Yeah. And, when we're talking about, you were talking about the things that you like, right? And when we sort of, I'm quite introverted and I break it down to, the lowest level, right? When we think about the things that we like or we love, we've got a bit of energy about it, right? The way that we're feeling and our energy is everything, right? Because, if you're low energy, you probably don't feel like exercising. Your diet goes out the window. You delay doing tasks. You delay doing certain activities because you procrastinate on that thing because it doesn't feel good. You don't have, and so, managing your energy becomes really, really important. So one of the things that I do is similar to what you do with your Venn diagram is I'll do a quadrant and I'll go, what's highest return on energy and highest return on income, right? List those tasks because they're the things that, similar to what you're saying that I love doing. What are the other things that are, high to neutral sort of return on energy, but I'm still pretty good at? And they're the things that top the line that you want to keep for that person. Anything that sort of sits below the line that's, low to neutral sort of return on energy, and, return on income as well. And then obviously low on both, then you want to get rid of it altogether.
I think one of the biggest mistakes that people can make when hiring, and I hear this and I cringe every time I hear it, is they go, I just need another me. You're like, well, firstly, another you doesn't exist. Secondly, another you is going to be wanting to do the stuff that you like to do as well. Where's the room then for I've got to process this app. Say that you don't like doing applications. Oh, I've got to process it. You do it. No, you do it. Like, you really do have to. And then there's no shame in any part of the home loan process. If you're like amazing at lodging applications and you hate talking to customers, you can still be an awesome broker. You just got to find a way to get the customer to do an application with you, which is definitely possible.
Oh, definitely. And don't you find, at the different levels where you go scaling your business, right? You got a choice, right? And I meet a lot of brokers that are successful, but I think they've also, you know, grown out of the jobs that they absolutely loved. And now they're in this
Mm,
sort of beast of a business and probably not enjoying it, but they feel a little bit
mm,
stuck because they're in a role that they don't particularly like, right? Because they felt that I followed someone else's model and this was the way I had to, you know, for example, you know, give away the broking task, which was the customer, you know, because I felt like I had to go into management, but I don't really like to manage. You know, I
mm,
don't like
mm.
staff. You know, that's just
Yeah,
one example, right? So, you know,
yeah.
this thing about sort of playing to your strengths as the business grows. Yeah. So have you sort of had struggled and sort of found yourself in roles that you didn't particularly like at stages?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I was terrible at admin. I still am terrible at admin. I've got a very short attention span. Not a good people manager either. I don't have a good eye for detail. What I do, the way that I was able to become, you know, a successful business really was I was good at improvising and good at like, all right, that didn't work, let's try this, let's, you know. But then what happens is, I started to realize, hang on, this is people's lives we're talking about here. We're going to have to sort of tighten this up. And I'm not talking like totally irresponsible, but it was just like, I wasn't reading a tax return properly and just, sent it in and missed something or whatever. So, so there was early on, you have to do everything, unless you join an organization, of course. But we thought with infrastructure and everything already there. But early on, I had to do everything. And yes, there was definitely parts that I didn't like. Um, as things matured, and I started to sort of narrow down more into that thing where I would sort of have the initial conversation, I then started to realize that I didn't like. I didn't. Well, I know it sounds funny, but nobody wants tire kickers, right? But I was kind of thinking, I give my clients so much upfront and first call. So not like, hey, yeah, you sound like a fit for us. Let's book a meeting. Like first call is let's get into it. Let's get really dirty. We talk about, you know, the property market and budget planning and all sorts of things. And I just sort of had an epiphany because it was really frustrating going into all of that level of detail. And then they said, oh, we're just deciding whether we're going to go here or with you. And I was like, oh, I thought you made that decision before you called me. I sort of made that assumption. And I just thought, you know what? I don't like I don't like holding back. I want to give everything to everyone. So now we introduced a deposit. So there was not really a way I could break down my role anymore. I was doing things that I wanted to do. I just wanted to do them for the right people. That was where my unhappiness lay, was giving so much to people and then them going, yeah, we haven't, especially some first home buyers, because they don't know what the broker down the street offers. They only know what you have given them. Um, so that was another way of being able to break it down even further. So now I
Can I
charge a
just stop you
refundable
there?
deposit.
Yeah. So, yeah, what is that refundable deposit that you charge? How much is it, and how does it happen in the process?
So it's only $250. So it's not like going to break the bank. It's if you proceed with an application within 3 months, and that application settles. This is the standard agreement. And that application settles, then I refund the 250 to you. Also, if you don't feel like there's like a money back guarantee, like if you don't feel you got $250 in value, because I think we're pretty awesome, but if you just were like, no, it didn't hit the mark, then I'll just give it back to you, because it's not about that. It's like there was this marketing company that charges $1 for their initial meeting, and they said even just somebody having to reach into their pocket or put in their credit card details or whatever, there's a certain mindset that comes along with doing that. So the $250, it's people spend more than that for a dinner. It's not a lot of money for the biggest decision you make in your lifetime, but it's like I can confidently give them everything. I don't have to hold back, which is what I love. And I know that they're serious. Maybe they change their mind and they don't go ahead. Maybe they go, thanks for that info. It wasn't quite there, but yeah, I got 250 in value. I'm just going to go somewhere else. Maybe that happens. but at least they're committed to this meeting. They're committed to our conversation, which is, yeah, really cool.
Good. And have you found much drop off in that, in terms of, you found many people who balk at paying the fee? And obviously that's probably a good thing in a way, but yeah, have you found much pushback to it?
It's funny you say that, because yes, I do. I'm like, oh, they didn't go ahead. Maybe we should change the way we're asking or whatever. It's like, no, Joel, you need drop off, because
Yeah.
my conversion rates were like 60%. I was like, I need, from application to settlement. I was, I need the drop off. That's the whole point of it. The $250 doesn't even pay for the time and keep the lights on. So it's all about the improving the conversion. So yes, there was drop off. Not as considerable as you think. I found that when people were attending those meetings, they were more committed. They'd often have their partner there. It was a Zoom meeting, whereas before everyone was just, no, we'll talk over the phone, and just one person wouldn't have their information. So they're not just paying that, they're also much more attentive in the meeting. They're much more responsive when I send them the information, because they're like, I've paid for this, so I want my value. So no, not really. Look, it's 90, more than 90, like less than 5% of our customers are not referred by other or repeat business. So very, very, very few of our clients these days. We don't really deal with real estate agents referrals anymore. It's a great way to, we're almost buying a book of clients that we then nurtured and we really just service the pants off to be able to get business from there. So they're sort of going like, in fact, one of our clients said, I told the person that referred you that you were charging. And I was like, no way I'm paying that. And then apparently my client's like, just pay it and do it. Like, don't ask questions, just pay it. And I was like, okay, cool. And they gave me that feedback. So that conversation might be happening and I don't even know. But yeah, take up's been pretty good, to be sort of surprisingly, yeah.
To be the broker of the year, you must be doing something right. So in terms of team, right, let's get an overview of your team. So give me a bit of an overview of your business. Who have you got in your team? How many people? What are their roles?
Yeah, so there's my wife. So like I say, we run the business together, and been doing that since day one for Peasy, and a little bit with Oxygen as well. And then we sort of separated into pods. So one pod sort of mainly specializes in self-employed, and we're sort of looking to generate some business loans, car loans, commercial loans, and things like that. So all of our self-employed clients will go to that pod. It's a good way of being able to specialize and get sort of specialized training as well, so they become experts on that particular type of customer. So we'll have within a pod. So our operations manager is filling in the RM role at the moment whilst we're trying to build that up. So we'd say a relationship manager. So as soon as I have the conversation with a client and send them the numbers and whatever, like I'll always follow up with about a 20-minute Loom video. Highly recommend, by the way. Then the relationship manager takes over and says, yep, this is, this is what happens. Document checklist gets sent out. They help to make sure that the client's not getting lost in the process, and then sort of takes them all the way through to settlement. We have somebody that does research. So literally just numbers, servicing calculators, the proposal, everything to do with numbers. And then obviously if an assessor calls with any kind of servicing questions or whatever, then the researcher would get involved there. And then both of those roles have assistants in the Philippines. Then the same is mirrored in the other pod, but mainly first home buyers, PAYG pretty much for the other pod.
Love it. And given your maturity in terms of where you're at in the business at the moment, where's the majority of your business coming from at the moment?
Yeah, pretty much all of them are existing clients or referrals of existing clients. So I don't charge existing clients unless it's like if I'm doing like a security substitution or a bridging loan with no end debt or something like that. We'll charge if we're not earning something from it. But yeah, so got the existing clients and then referrals. Very, very few come from external sources. We've got a buyer's agent that refers us some clients, but yeah, most of them organic.
All right, love it, love it. And in terms of, we were speaking in terms of, team and getting them on board, and in terms of your advice to brokers looking to sort of grow and scale their business,
Mm.
what are some of the sort of hiring do's and don'ts you would recommend?
Yeah, look, we've got a very specific culture, I think, that we're trying to create, and it's a family first culture. So we do call ourselves the Peasy family, but it's really your family's at home, and so we do work from home 4 days a week. We try to be flexible wherever we can. We're doing more and more work on sort of job sharing and things, so that if somebody's away or needs to fill in or someone's busy, that no one has to do any overtime. We're very, very, very rarely working overtime. So sort of knowing and understanding your own culture. Don't try and hire people that somebody else is telling you that they're good. They've got to fit your culture and what you're trying to achieve. Some people like to have drinks on a Friday afternoon and hang out and be friends. That's one culture. Some people like to work till midnight every night, and absolutely, then that's another culture. No one can tell you, and there's plenty of candidates for all of those different types of cultures. So there's not a right or a wrong. So if you know that, then when you're hiring someone, you got to look at them and think, can that person fit into my culture? Can I see myself sitting next to that person day in, day out? Are they someone that's going to sort of fit, that there? So that's number one. Number two is knowing their personality strengths and knowing that they're going to be able to fit into that role. That whole classic thing of the best salesperson doesn't necessarily mean they're the best sales manager. It's the same in every single role. I think so. We do psychometric testing with everybody that joins, and we make sure that they're going to learn at or if they're going to be taking on a lot of learning and training, that they're doing it at the pace that suits them. They're doing the role that suits them. So if there's someone that likes to talk to people and is very, then working from at home and doing applications is probably not going to be the best role. And then same in reverse. It's like, some people, that if they love to chat and everything, you're going to put them into a phone-based role. So hiring the right people for the that to suit their strengths. And the other one is making a decision quickly when it's not working out. The longer you can, but if we just do this, if we just do that, it's like, I know that this is going to work out. I'm going to invest the time. I know that this is not going to work out. I'm not going to invest the time. It's the damage that it can do internally with your team. If you hire an absolute bludger and then everyone's working their ass off and they're looking at them going, oh, is this the new standard at Peasy? Like it's,
Yeah.
you want to sort of avoid that, obviously. So, yeah.
No, I love that. And then that's great advice, and easier to say, sometimes harder to do, because you've got to have those tough conversations, which nobody likes to have. But I think, definitely some great advice. You mentioned psychometric testing. So what is your test of choice? I know in the past I've used, DISC and Colby, and there's a couple of others around. What are the ones that you like to use?
We use Preview, Prevue, is one of our business coach recommended. It measures mental agility as well as a whole bunch of other personality traits, and you can kind of see how they all fit in together and with the role that you're hiring for as well.
Yeah, beautiful. All right. So make note of that one, Preview. So sounds good. I might have to check it out myself. It's been great. We've got covered a lot of ground in this conversation, and there's been, lots of nuggets. One of the things that I ask everyone sort of in closing is, if you were to give one piece of advice, right, in terms of to a broker who's looking to, take that step and really, go and scale their business, what's that sort of one key piece of advice that you want to leave the listeners with today?
I know that I've said this a few times, so for the risk of sounding repetitive, but I think it's a really important one, is know and work to your strengths. That's it. Just really nail that and hire everyone else that can do everything else for you, because not only is it something you're good at and you can do really well, but you're also going to find better job satisfaction as a result.
Oh, exactly. And don't be afraid to be you, right?
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to be you. Be you at 110%, and quite often people worry about putting themselves out there, but no, people don't care, just as long as you sort of lead with that front foot, like you mentioned, play to your strengths. You're going to love what you do. You're going to have a great team environment. And, I was very similar to you. We used to make a joke that I would smash through the walls and make the mess, and then I'd have to have staff to come and clean up after me, right? So, and again, it worked, and what led us to be successful. And it's obviously, your proof is in the pudding, in terms of you've created amazing business, and you're continuing to sort of push the bar with everything that you're doing from an AI perspective. And it's no wonder that you're sort of leading the ranks there at AFG. So congrats, mate. Thanks for the chat. I've really
Thank
enjoyed
you.
it. And
Awesome.
I'd love to catch up again at another time. This has been another episode of the $1 Billion Broker podcast. If you want to follow us, there's a number of ways. One, on your favorite podcast channel, subscribe. Secondly, join our Facebook group if you haven't already, $1 Billion Broker for mortgage brokers. If you would like to learn more and to be coached by myself, jump onto www.billiondolarbroker.com.au and reach out, and I'd love to have a chat with you. Until next time, thanks, Joel.
Thank you.